concern for sanctuary policies is not something new. Sanctuary policies, let me remind you, contributed to the 9/11 terror acts. The 19 terrorists, all in one way or another, gamed our immigration system while we were having lax enforcement and not really tracking students, etc. All of the 19 hijackers gamed our immigration system one way or another, and it only took 19. And they were amongst us in cities. Some of them were working. They had driver's licenses, etc. Just remember that. Most recently, 2007, we had the Fort Dix 6. 4 of those 6 were here illegally, living and working in Cherry Hill and Philadelphia. One was even driving a cab while we were asleep. This was just 2 years ago. Let me remind you, while Mayor Nutter's compassion for those who want to remain undetected, it only takes 1, it only takes 6, it only takes 19. In a post-9/11 world, this is no longer acceptable. Now I have the distinct pleasure of welcoming State Representative Daryl Metcalfe from Butler County. He's a 6-term state representative from Western Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania General Assembly's #1 conservative according to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. He's the founder of State Representatives for Legal Immigration, a national coalition of state representatives from 40 states working to curb illegal immigration. Daryl Metcalfe has worked closely and is a good friend of State Senator Russell Pierce in Arizona, and I had the distinct pleasure of being invited to the rollout press conference of the State Legislators for Legal Immigration at this very terrace right here 3 years ago. He's also the author of the National Security Begins at Home, Illegal Immigration Legislative Reform Package, 7 bills since 2006. He also recently introduced, Pennsylvania was the first state after Arizona. He introduced House Bill 2479, Support Our Law Enforcement and Safe Neighborhoods Act, modeled on Arizona enforcement legislation in April of 2010. I welcome Daryl Metcalfe.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Great to be with everybody here in Philadelphia today. It's sad that we have to gather here to draw attention to what the mayor of Philadelphia is doing in violation of his oath of office to uphold and defend the constitutions of our state and nation, and for him as a mayor of the state to enforce the laws of our federal and state government. Because the mayor, with his actions of pulling back on this agreement with the feds that's been successful in helping the feds to identify illegal aliens who should be deported, the mayor has taken a very active role in aiding and abetting illegal aliens, and he should be prosecuted by the federal government for it. As I stood here this morning waiting to speak, I was standing next to my friend Robert Allen Mansfield, standing back here, a fellow veteran, recently retired from our U.S. military. Thank you to Robert for his service to our great nation. But as I stood next to Robert, brings back some memories of standing in formation as a young soldier, but brings back a very vivid memory of when I was first brought into the United States military, of raising my right hand and swearing to uphold and defend our Constitution of our great nation. And that's something that every elected official does, is raises their right hand and swears to uphold and defend our Constitution, just as every one of our military personnel does. Well, our federal government has been AWOL for decades in upholding and defending the United States Constitution. Specifically, Article 4, Section 4, which requires our federal government to protect the states from invasion. When you have hundreds of thousands of foreigners streaming across your border, uninvited, unauthorized, that is nothing less than an invasion that has to be brought to an end, which is why I joined with colleagues across the country several years ago to found State Legislators for LegalImmigration.com. We have 37 states being represented currently. Senator Russell Pierce from Arizona was one of the early members. My good friend and colleague, Senator Russell Pierce, has been a champion of fixing this issue for many, many years in Arizona. When I served in the United States Army and was stationed in El Paso, Texas, down at Fort Bliss, that was a prime location for illegals to stream across the border. We actually had briefings from our senior staff, senior officers, when we went on leave on the weekends, when we had off time, to be wary of individuals that could be coming across the border to try and gain information, gain intelligence because of our secret security clearances, because of the technology that we worked with. So we were warned at that time that it was a very porous situation there on the border of El Paso and Juarez. Of course, Juarez has turned into a murder capital for Mexico since then, with so many lives lost on that side of the border, and many lost on our own side of the border. But it's not just about lives being lost on the border any longer. Our border, through the advancements of technology, through quick transportation, being very mobile, people being able to share their needs for workers across the internet. Pennsylvania, even though it's been a border state with Canada, not threatened by most of the invasion that's been occurring from the southern border, has become a prime target for illegal aliens to enter to try and exist within our economy, attaining illegal jobs, attaining illegal benefits. The cost has been recently estimated by FAIR in a recent report that was just released earlier this week, as they introduced a national report that estimated costs for the country at over $100 billion, estimated our cost in Pennsylvania at over $1 billion. I believe it was about $1.4 billion that they estimated our cost for Pennsylvania taxpayers. Dollars that are being lost that should be delivering services to citizens of the United States of America, to Pennsylvania citizens. When Mayor Nutter exercises his authority in his office here as the mayor of Philadelphia to aid illegal aliens in residing here by discontinuing the sharing of information with the federal government, who's actually been able to deport some of those illegal aliens, Mayor Nutter is aiding and abetting their search for illegal jobs and tapping into our illegal benefits. And what's worse than that, the human face that you have to put on this problem. What Alice had read earlier, the list of victims at the hands of illegal aliens who shouldn't be on our soil in the first place. There's a young woman whose name that I recall from the research that we were doing named Carly. Carly was a very young Pennsylvania woman. She met her death at the hands of an illegal alien in a multiple stabbing assault. Tragic. Dollar figures can never be put on the cost of Carly's life. That's one life. Dollar figures can never be put on the cost of the many lives that have been lost to the hands of illegal aliens. And beyond the cost of those lives, beyond the losses of those lives, beyond the tragic circumstances that those families have to live with for the rest of their lives, we have other crimes that are being committed against Pennsylvanians, be it a stolen job, stolen benefits, stolen identities, stolen property. It's time to protect American lives, liberty, and property. It's time to secure our borders. It's time to go after sanctuary cities. It's time to go after the elected officials and bureaucrats who are representing those municipalities. And with that in mind, we have introduced several pieces of legislation in Pennsylvania's legislature, two of which have been introduced in a previous session, have been reintroduced this session, that would hold Mayor Nutter and his accomplices accountable financially to the victims of illegal alien crime. So we have introduced legislation that will hold them accountable in the future for illegal alien crimes being committed against Americans by illegals. We've also introduced legislation that will take away the appropriations from the state that are going to municipalities that are holding on to sanctuary city policies. And better yet, we've modeled Arizona's most recent legislation, and legislation that was previously passed by the Arizona legislature and signed by their governor, that would actually set up a situation where if the cities, local municipalities of a given state, of our state in this situation, in the state of Pennsylvania, once this law would become law, this legislation would become law, that those municipalities would be fined if they were not changing their policies that aided illegal aliens remaining in those sanctuary cities. They would be fined at a daily rate of $1,000 to $5,000 after they were notified and given 7 days to correct their flawed policies. And what's even better is it would give the citizens of that municipality standing to bring those charges to their DA and against those city elected officials. Legislation that is long overdue, legislation that is needed to protect American lives, liberty, and property. It's just beyond belief that you would see a mayor who's an American citizen stand up and initiate a policy that will harm the very American citizens who've elected him to office. It's time to bring it to an end, and those elected officials that are doing so need to be held accountable. And I call on the United States prosecutors, on Holder, Attorney General Holder, to prosecute these elected officials in sanctuary cities across this country. Prosecute them. Do not prosecute and file charges, file suit against the likes of Arizona, who are just trying to stand up for their citizens and protect American lives, liberty, and property. It should be done. Have a great day.
Thank you, Representative Metcalfe. I'd like to say that we're talking about specifically focusing on crimes committed by illegal immigrants, and we want not to have Philadelphia be a safe harbor for anyone who is here illegally or has an arrest record in particular. The problem is that we can no longer afford to trade in votes and politics for our safety. We're seeing this on a federal level, where we are having discussions of holding our border security hostage for political reasons, really to provide amnesty in terms of comprehensive immigration reform. And we should never hold our security hostage, whether it's in Pennsylvania, whether it's in Arizona, or whether it's on a national basis. Peter Gadiel from the 9/11 Families for a Secure America was going to be here. He called this morning. He had car trouble. He was driving from New Hampshire. He was not able to be here. Diana Reimer will read just a short, brief portion of his remarks. Thank you.
As I am speaking for Peter Gadiel, I speak for the members of 9/11 Families for a Secure America. We are made up entirely of victims of the 9/11 attacks and others killed in the tens of thousands of street crimes committed by illegal aliens and negligently screened legal aliens. Let me make this perfectly clear. An immigrant is a person who has legally come to the U.S. I am the son and brother of immigrants. They obeyed the law. The members of 9/11 FSA support immigration. We just want to keep it safe and legal. 9/11 FSA members, speaking on behalf of ourselves and our murdered loved ones, demand an end to the protection of illegals. Enough is enough. Thank you.
I just want to leave everyone this end of our press conference with a few concluding remarks. Mayor Nutter, while you have been in office, crime has gone up. Crime has gone up in the city. While not every crime has been committed by illegal aliens, we have enough homegrown criminals terrorizing our cities and victimizing our visitors and residents. The last thing we need is to harbor and aid and abet criminals who are not here legally. We have enough of our own homegrown of that regard. And again, I'd like to stress, this is not a Republican issue, a Democrat issue, an independent issue, a union issue, a non-union issue. Illegal immigration affects all aspects of our society, and it affects everyone, no matter whether they're Hispanic, Asian, American, citizen, non-citizen, etc. With those remarks, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody who came here today. A very hot day, and I appreciate you standing with us and standing here to hear all the speakers. Thank you to everyone who came, and we'll be available for questions or interviews. Thank you.